What's up with y'all? It's your man Sam and I'm back with another video. Look, you feel me? We got El Chapo. How is El Chapo's prison cell security? Now look, we know this man didn't escape. I think he escaped like twice. You feel me? A maximum security. Imagine how crazy that is. You feel me? But I ain't gonna take too much of y'all time. Let's go.
After escaping twice and after several years on the run, Joseph Guzman,
I watched a little documentary of him, so like I know a little bit.
Mexican drug lord, most popularly known as El Chapo, was captured and locked behind one of the world's most secure prisons, ADX Florence. But how can we be sure he won't escape again? And what makes this prison so secure that the authorities feel certain they found a permanent home for the drug lord, the notorious inmates of ADX Florence?
Like I be thinking, like, you ever watch like certain movies and it's like the villain is the villain, but like there's movies on villains, you feel me? And they explain why they're villains. I'd be like wondering like if certain people are only terrorists because like, you know, I ain't gonna really say it, but like, see, cause drugs are only illegal because the government can't tax it, and there's a lot of laws and like stuff like that. You feel me? Because the government can't make money off of it, it's illegal. So, you feel me? Stuff like this is like, you know. Because essentially, you feel me, El Chapo has killed a lot of people, so there's that. But he's the biggest drug, like, guy. You feel me? And if we all think about it, you feel me, it's only illegal because it's not taxed. Granted, he did do, like, coke and stuff, but I'm pretty sure he did everything.
ADX Florence is home to the worst of the worst, the ones we call society's monsters. And while El Chapo might have been the most ruthless drug lord in recent memory, there are criminals in this world, criminals who are not interested in money or power, criminals who just want to watch the world burn. These criminals match the atrocities of El Chapo committed, and then some. I mean, how many people do you know who are as twisted as John Krasinski? In 1966, John Krasinski...
I ain't gonna lie, he be like, Mexicans, like, these Mexicans crazy. That's all I gotta say. Like, their little drug. Like, if I ever get into anything and the Mexican like cartel or whatever they got going on end up being involved, you feel me? You got it. I ain't got it. You feel me?
He was a math professor from Harvard University before he randomly mailed 16 homemade bombs to people, killing 3 of them in the process. When he was caught and tried, the only place that made sense to keep his murderous tendencies at bay was a place as secure as ADX Florence. Or what about another wild card? The international terrorist known as Umar Abdul Muttalab. Back in 2009, Umar became known as the underwear suicide bomber when he tried and failed to take down a plane that was on its way to Detroit from Amsterdam. The plane was carrying 289 people. Today, he's spending multiple life sentences behind ADX Florence's concrete walls. Then, there is the notorious Michael Swango, a man so evil they had to nickname him Dr. Death. This diabolical villain used his medical license to poison patients and colleagues. The medical serial killer murdered more than 60 people through his bloody reign. And there is no way on earth anyone would want that man, or any of the men I just mentioned, in a regular prison, which is what makes ADX Florence their perfect home. But what is so special about this Supermax? And what sets it apart from your regular maximum security facility? The structure of ADX Florence. ADX Florence Supermax occupies 49 acres of land on the outskirts of a small rural town in Colorado.
See, like, stuff like this, like, you literally got a prison that got 45 acres of land, you feel me? Like, why even, like, imagine how much money that is. Like, why even spend that much? Like, granted, these type of people need to be out the streets, but like, why even spend that much money on stuff like that?
Watch this. I can show you how to get the sweetest deals online when you shop from major retailers like Amazon and Target. You can drop
built to house 490 inmates. This impenetrable facility has never been full and currently houses 343 of the most high-profile criminals the world has ever seen or heard of. It is divided into 6 different security.
I guess you do need like places like this. But just think about going to jail for the rest of your life. Like you think like you get one life, bro. And I couldn't imagine like even a couple of months, because that just set your life back so far. Yeah, like, I don't know, bro.
Levels that vary in their levels of restriction. General population, the special housing unit, the special security unit or H unit, the control unit, intermediate or transitional units, and range 13. General population is the least restrictive unit. All inmates within this unit are subject to 23-hour lockdowns with just an hour of recess each day. They are also given phone call privileges that they have to earn. Their 1 hour of freedom is spent in an indoor swimming pool-like concrete pit that is built in such a way inmates won't have an idea where in the prison facility they are. As restrictive as this sounds, El Chapo isn't in this unit. The H unit houses criminals that have been deemed terrorist groups by the Department of Justice. Notorious individuals like Umar Abdul Muttalab stay in this unit. And one of the defining features of this unit is the fact that the cells there don't have a shower. Rather, prisoners are escorted to a shower by guards several days a week. Again, El Chapo is not in this unit. The unit the drug lord resides in is the most restrictive and is called Range 13. Range 13 is a special 4-cell wing within the special housing unit. Before El Chapo, only 2 other criminals have been publicly thrown into Range 13. Thomas Silverstein, the most violent criminal in the history of the United States, and Ramzi Youssef, responsible for the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. The reason why El Chapo is sharing a prison wing...
why have I never heard of these before? Like, I've never heard of that bomb before.
The worst criminals in history is because of his own history with maximum security facilities. I've published some videos on El Chapo's mastery in the art of prison escape, so why don't we compare his old prison escapes with the design at ADX Florence and see if you could pull off a Schofield here. ADX Florence versus El Chapo's first prison escape. Before ADX Florence, El Chapo has been in and out of 2 max security prisons in Mexico. And no, he didn't finish his time. He escaped in the most dramatic way possible. The first prison he spent time in was Puente Grande Maximum Security Prison outside the city of Guadalajara. Arrested in 1995 for a bloody shootout in Guadalajara airport 2 years prior, El Chapo lived like a king in that prison, enjoying everything that he had enjoyed while he was free: good food, women, sports, and running his drug trade with ease. But the Mexican government caught wind of the corruption and decided to extradite him to the US as long as he wouldn't be given the death penalty. El Chapo knew what an American prison meant, so he planned a ridiculously simple escape plan. On the 19th of January 2001, El Chapo was wheeled out of the prison in a laundry basket by a guard in the prison. In ADX Florence, that would be impossible, because guards are not allowed to interact with the inmates under any circumstances. But maybe we have this all wrong. Everyone knows that most escapes come from corrupt, bribable prison officials. So, could El Chapo corrupt a guard who would help him plan his escape? The answer to that question is extremely unlikely. Any guard he tries to bribe would have already gone through a rigorous vetting process.
Sue, if y'all was a police officer at these prisons, like, would you take the money from El Chapo or anybody for real? Feel me? Would you take the bread, depending on like if it's a good amount? Cause the little favors that these niggas doing, they doing it for a couple thousand. You feel me? Like from what I'm looking at, it might be more, but I'm just saying. Like, would y'all take money under the table?
Process. I don't want to use the word incorruptible for the guards, but it would be extremely difficult to bribe them because both the guards and inmates are constantly rotated and closely watched. And beyond that, anyone scheming to free inmates of this facility, some of whom are considered enemies of the state, may as well consider themselves a dead man. It's not a wise thing to go against the United States of America. Okay, now that we know that it is unlikely that El Chapo will escape ADX Florence the way he staged his first escape, let's consider his second. ADX Florence versus El Chapo's second prison escape. After El Chapo's first escape, another 13 years passed before the drug lord was once again captured. This time, it took a joint effort between the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, or the DEA, and Mexican Marines. The date of his capture was the 22nd of February 2014, and this time, everyone went to great lengths to ensure that it would be difficult, if not impossible, to escape. His cell had no windows, inmates were not allowed to talk to each other, and they were not allowed to reach out to family members either. El Chapo spent 23 hours in solitary confinement, in a cell that had one bed, one shower, and a single toilet. Any visitations by family had to first be approved by a judge, and the only luxury he was afforded was $48 for personal.
This is Blankos, the free-to-play
like that's where
multiplayer game where you can unlock, earn, and sell NFTs in-game. In Blankos,
like imagine that being your life.
Products. Yes,
That
no
is
one was taking
crazy,
any chances this time. But even with all these restrictions, a little over a year later, El Chapo escaped once again. He had found a blind spot for the security cameras in the cell bathroom, and after months of communicating with his men, El Chapo walked into that shower stall and disappeared. But how? This is where it gets more insane. It turns out that El Chapo's men, led by his wife, had been digging a mile-long tunnel for 4 months that led directly underneath the shower. With the help of a smartwatch that someone had smuggled in, he was able to pinpoint his exact location for his criminal tunnelers. Again, there is no way he would be able to escape using this way in ADX Florence. And some of the reasons El Chapo was able to get his gang members to build a tunnel underneath the second prison he escaped from was because 1. He had bought the land around the prison there in Mexico. 2. He had gotten another corrupt guard to smuggle a smartwatch in for him. And 3. The prison had a blind spot. ADX Florence has no blind spots. It is a fortress that costs $60 million to build. It is surrounded by rocks on all sides.
Like, you see what I'm saying? I'm 60. Like, imagine what you could do at 60 million. And they just like, this prison only got 300 and something people in there. Can only hold 4. Like, what is it really doing? Like, these people aren't on the streets. You feel me? Right. They're not on the streets, but like, I don't know, bro.
And there is an army base, Fort Carson, just a couple of miles away from the prison for extra measure. There is no way on God's green earth that El Chapo will buy land around a prison that the federal government owns. His men would find it difficult, if not impossible, to drill a tunnel in that region. And who is going to smuggle a watch for him? I've already covered how difficult it is to corrupt the guards. The only way out for the man is in a body bag. But that's not even the most terrifying part of this Supermax prison. There are some experiences far more horrifying than death, and ADX Florence has a 5-star rating in that department. I'm talking about the unbearable living conditions of the Range 13 cells that El Chapo and other unfortunate inmates like him have to endure. Life in Range 13. Life in Range 13 is so bad that former guards have disavowed the prison, calling it inhumane. And it's not inhumane for the reasons you think. The only kind of torture in ADX Florence is isolation and deafening silence. The prison is where the worst of the worst go. In ADX, inmates are locked up 23 hours a day in a 7 by 12 foot cell that features a desk, stool.
23 hours of a whole day. Like, I already think, like, my day's short. Like, I be like, sometimes I be like, yo, I need some more time in the day, bro. But you are locked in a cell for 23 hours per day. And then the 1 hour that you get out is not even like, you're not even going outside type shit. Like, you in this little enclosed area where you just got more space, but you don't got, like, that's crazy.
And bed. Each of these pieces of furniture is made from the same material that the cell is made from, poured concrete. The cells are also soundproofed, so inmates can't communicate with anybody except their own imagination. It's also constructed to be so deliberately disorienting that the prisoners never know where in the prison they are. Inmates will find it hard to hurt themselves in this cell, even if they tried. The sinks come without taps, so that they can't be turned into weapons. The toilets shut off if clogged, and the showers run on a scheduled timer. Entertainment in the cells is reduced to a black and white TV that plays repeated educational and religious recordings daily. Even the food they eat is monitored. It is hand-delivered by the guards so that inmates won't have an opportunity to meet one another. There's a small window in each cell, but it only gives them a view of the sky. And every cell is fitted with pressure pads that allow the guards to know where the prisoner is within their cell at any given time. The entire facility is also surrounded by motion detectors, cameras, and thick steel doors for extra protection. And yes, everything is controlled remotely from a control room. The entire facility can be shut down with a single panic button in the event of an emergency. Already, you can get a feeling of how impossible it would be for El Chapo to escape ADX Florence. But let's humor ourselves a little. Let's imagine that El Chapo found a way to escape his cell, get past all the sensors, cameras, and steel doors. He would still have a 12-foot-tall razor wire fence to deal with. And we're not even talking about the countless heavily armed guards that patrol the facility 24/7. and their highly trained dogs, and the fact that Fort Carson, which is just down the road, is equipped with a 4th Infantry Division, 10th Special Forces Group, a few hundred combat vehicles, and 74 combat helicopters. There is a reason ADX Florence Supermax is called the
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, bro, that's a lot, bro. Like, then, like, it's like I understand it, but like, come on, like, I don't know, bro. I'm just saying, like, personally, I would. It's like you can't even, like, you can't do nothing, bro.
Alcatraz of the Rockies. No inmate in the 28-year history of the facility has
I
ever
don't
escaped.
know how I
from
feel.
the
I
way
ain't gonna lie. I don't even know how I feel about that for real. Like, that's crazy, bro. Like, I know it. Like, I know he did all this crazy stuff, but bro, that is serious. Like, that's crazy, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna catch y'all next. Make sure you subscribe. I'm gonna catch y'all next.